Hey, everybody. So here we are for AI art and Photoshop live event today, going over the various AI art generators and then me taking into Photoshop, doing some good edits. How you doing, Marcia? Aloha from Zosh. Good to see you here, Zosh. So yeah, welcome everybody. Let me know. You say let us know, but let me know where you're watching from. AI art and Photoshop today. Aloha from Maui. Nice. Good to see you here, Steve. Hello from Tiger Luke. Good to see you here, Tiger. Marsha on YouTube. Thank you. Karen from Belgium. Good to see you here, Karen. Sasha from Vancouver Island, Canada. Nice. Joyce from Yorkshire, UK. My friend Rudy from Antwerp, Belgium. Nice. Good to see you here. Okay, lots to go over, so I'm going to jump on in. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And here we go. And someone else from Boston-ish. Okay. So jump on over. Okay, so to begin with, starting off in Adobe Firefly. So you can see that in the address bar, firefly.adobe.com. So I got here. And starting off in the gallery. So a little bit of the gallery that showcases the work of different people. So I had a nice surprise as I scrolled down. I noticed that there are two of my images. So these two here. So we got the surreal dream of a woman and nature merging and another version of that. So that's a nice way to get showcased when you submit your work to a Firefly gallery. So as you can see here, there is the prompt right at the bottom. I'm already kind of set to text to image. What all I do is I already wrote up the prompt. I'm just going to paste it. And we got a couple of friends here. So let's see. William from Brooklyn. Someone from Facebook, Staffordshire, UK. Good to see you here. Okay, cool. So in the prompt, I'm just going to paste in, and I'm going to use that same one to see what new variations I get. And then I just hit the word generate. And so it's first telling me that it's Firefly Image 2 model is available now, which is what I'm using. And it generates, and then these are the new images. That's pretty cool. So once you like the image, you just click on it for a larger view. And then I can go to the top right, save it to favorites. And then if I click this more options icon, I can download it. And then it's just telling you the content credentials. And then beyond that, if I go back, you can also copy the link, copy the image, edit in Adobe Express, or submit to the Firefly community, which I'm going to. And then it takes your name and then gives you credit if they put it up on their gallery like you saw before. Hello, good to see you here. Okay, and then if I hit the right arrow, I can scroll through. That's a good one too. I like that. So I'm just going to submit to Firefly as well as download. Submitting my image. And then I go back up to more options and download. Yep. This one's more realistic. I kind of like the more cartoon style since I put in that kind of paper mache. That's a pretty cool one too, though. So submit to Firefly community, and then I can also download it. Cool. So what I wanted to go over today too was not just showing simply how I create, but to give an idea of what the different AI apps do with the same exact prompt. So I've got this prompt, the surreal dream of a woman and nature merging, paper mache style. And As you can see in my Chrome browser, the second tab brings me to Bing Image Creator, which is also now going by the name of Copilot Designer. This is their gallery. And so as I scroll down, you can see a bunch of variations of images that were created with their AI art generator. Some pretty nice stuff. Then there's a little bit of a frequently asked questions, FAQ, but there's some nice work. And then that's where you would put in your prompt. It also keeps your past creations to a certain amount. So if you click on creations, these are some past ones I was working on. So if you look on the right side, these are my recent, you can turn it off. Well, it looks like it's it's staying on no matter what, but normally you can turn it on or turn it off. And then you can scroll down and just see different groupings that you've worked on. And then if you were to click on any of these, it would show you, so you might have seen this series I posted on Facebook. Then it shows you the prompt back up top. But I'm going to work on that new image based on the one that I created in Firefly. So I paste that same one, Surreal Dream of a Woman and Nature Merging. Very curious to see how Bing Image Creator will create from the same prompt. So I just hit create on the right. It's being created. They need to be a bit more creative with the little progress bars. Firefly and Bing, they need to have. Okay, so then when I go to these images, they played up a lot more of the paper mache style in the background, but I like this, so I can download that. And download that. It's nice. And I like the birds flying around. Pretty cool. And that's one that I might end up using for today. Now, what I do to organize is I have a wonderful app called Trickster, which shows all my downloads from an icon in the top right of my desktop. I can then see all that's been downloaded recently to my desktop. Go back. So I can select, shift click, and then I can drag them all into a folder. So here's a folder just called Today. I say date added. There they are. And then I can make the preview a bit larger. So that's nicely organized. But before we jump into, say, some edits, I wanted to see what happens when I go to Leonardo. So it's very easy with Bing Image Creator. It's very direct. There's no other options. One thing I did not go over, but I'll go over that now, is when you're in Firefly, you will see on the right, there's lots of options. So aspect ratio, there's square, portrait, widescreen, landscape. So a lot of aspect ratio, size, dimensions focused. Visual intensity. So if I were to pull this to the right, then it would be more focused on my prompt. Adjust the overall intensity of your photo's existing visual characteristics. So under style, just to let you know, you can reference a style image. So say I had this image, but I want it to be very painterly. I could upload an image of like a very painterly image, like the texture, and then it would match that style. Then you have all these different effects. So when you click on here, you have Art Deco, Art Nouveau, Cubism, psychedelic, neo-expression, very good range, great range of different kind of effects. Reminds me of like the filter galleries in Photoshop. And if I scroll down, you have, other themes, 3D, anime, cartoon, even more creative options, pattern, pixel. That sounds pretty cool. And then as you go further, there's even more techniques, chiaroscuro, acrylic paint, color shift, doodle, even watercolor, even more. It just keeps going. And then it comes down, there's a whole thing for materials. So charcoal, claymation, which is kind of the style I have here under paper mache. And then there's different even concepts, and then color and tone. There's a great variety for color and tone here. And then for lighting, you have all these different options. So, backlighting, dramatic lighting, golden hour, lots of great options. And then for composition, you can choose if you want it to be like close up, knolling, landscape, macro, shot from above, shot from below, surface detail. So plenty of options. And then they also give you advanced settings, which they let you know here that you can exclude from your image, add up to 10 words or phrases that you want Fire to avoid. So if you had, say, an image of a person and they had their hands in the air or something, you could make sure that you could say only 5 fingers or something. But great to have options like this. So that's Firefly. So you don't get that with Bing. It's very direct. And then the third one is Leonardo. And so here I am at the app.leonardo.ai. And then just to go over with Bing, that was basically bing.com/images/create. And then this other part, of course, is my prompt. So bing.com/images/create. But here we are in Leonardo, which is app.leonardo.ai. And then this is their like home page. So Leonardo is pretty extensive, and I joined a subscription with them. So I pay for a yearly subscription that gives me more of these tokens. So every month, it says it's resetting in 13 days. I get, I think, 8,500. So I get 8,500 tokens with which to use, and I haven't even used them that much. I've been so busy this month. But as you can see, you can do image generation. You can do real-time canvas, which is create and transform sketches into art, which I haven't even tried, but looks like a fantastic option. Canvas editor, you can go in and do some editing itself right here in Leonardo. They've now added motion, so you can watch your kind of static images come to life, or you can make the background move as this example shows. Real-time generation allows for real-time generation while you type. So as you're typing and adding elements, the image will change and show you that. And then they've, I believe it's recent, is they've added universal upscaler. So with universal upscaler, you can improve the quality, size, or make changes to images with prompts. I'm going to show more changes using Topaz Photo AI and Photoshop itself. But it's great that they have that option in Leonardo. So here on the home page, once again, there's another gallery. So there's a gallery, and then you can like the images, you can click on it, and then copy the prompts. And just so you know, if you have, say, a subscription, when you go to, I'm not going to jump there yet, but when you go to, say, image generation, you can choose if you want your prompts to be private or public. So these are obviously all public, and there's quite the variety, but some really nice detail, and artistic effects and 3D or sculptural effects, nice lighting, but quite the variety. Very nice. And there's some of the animation. And so what happens is from there, you also have like a personal feed. So that might show a bunch of images that I've been working on, a little meditative theme, monster themes, portraits. So you might have noticed that a lot of these I don't even post on social. This one was one that I did post that people seem to like a lot. But other ones are kind of experimentations, trying to just try things out, see what kind of textures, get it created with my prompts. And then I might even take some of these and composite them with other images. So that's under the personal feed. Then there's a whole set of training and data sets. So you can like search for new data sets, fine-tune models. And so as you can see here, there's a whole bunch of models they use that you can choose from, which is a bit overwhelming. And I haven't found the best, the descriptions aren't the best at telling you what the difference is between each one. But as an example, instead of going through every little thing, if I go to image generation, that's the main thing. Once I go here, that's where I put my prompt up top. And then you can choose the model here on the left. So over here on the left, you can choose, my default is Albedo Base XL. There's Leonardo Diffusion XL, Kino, Vision, Dream Shaper, Absolute Reality, Anime Pastel Dream, lots, real good variety of options for the model that you can choose. So I have mine set to Albedo Base XL Dynamic. You can add elements. I haven't done that. There's also that option for negative prompting. So you could say, do not add this or take that away. And then there's some of my previous images. Then on the right, top right, it shows you how many tokens they will use for generating that one image. Then on the left, it tells you how many images will be generated, showing you the different kind of subset of models that's connected to it, photoreal or alchemy. It tells you what the output resolution is. Now, there's where I was saying where you can choose if you want community to see your images or not, public or not. And then there's input dimensions. So what I tend to do is before I start an image, I always look over, and these are pretty small. So these are pretty small dimensions over here. And so what I tend to do is I go down to here and I pull it to the right. So I start my image with 1536 as opposed to like 1024 or 768. And I feel like that's a good point where the quality's good enough that I can then resize it with Topaz Photo AI in Photoshop. But it's not small enough that it, doesn't give me what I need. Okay. So we have someone from Staffordshire. I'm back. Been in a while. Yeah. That might be my friend Andy. Okay. So here we are. I've chosen the dimensions 1536. Guidance scale, you can't even choose that when alchemy is on. So alchemy is one of the kind of like automatic guidance scale. New image generation pipeline, a lot of different features. So pretty happy with all the different options. Now what I want to do is, this is an old prompt. I get rid of that. And I'm going to type in the same prompt that I did with the other ones, Firefly and Bing Image Creator. So surreal dream of a woman and nature merging, paper mache style. Now, the thing is, I love all the options that Leonardo gives you. They have some really great details in the images, but I do have to admit, sometimes it does ignore aspects of the prompt. So here you can see that it's going to take 26 tokens up from 16 because I made bigger dimensions. So I just hit generate. There's a little preview here. Get thirsty, all this talking. Still pretty quick though. I mean, 17 seconds, probably be done by 30 seconds, I imagine. Maybe because it's also a larger dimension image, it takes a little bit more time. But still, in the overall timing, it's pretty fast. So about 35 seconds. So very different. So very different image, but I like it. And this is kind of similar to another image it created for me before. So a nature image. So I can download that. And then you'll also notice that you can copy clipboard. You can remove the background, which they take just 2 tokens, which is nothing. There's also Alchemy Smooth Upscale for images with smooth textures, which include illustrative, anime, cartoon-like images. That only takes 5 tokens. Alchemy Crisp Upscale for images with lots of texture detail, which this might be appropriate for. But like I said, I'm going to take it into Photoshop and use Topaz Photo AI. Telling you what's new, and then you can also delete the image if you wanted to. Pretty happy with that. So what I'm going to do is go here, go down to my Trickster app. I can see that this is on the desktop, and I just drag it into the Today folder, and there it is in the middle. So there I have everything organized in my Today folder. And so I'm either going to use this one from Bing or this one. I also like these two, where I kind of like them as they are. I'm not sure they need anything besides just maybe a little bit of a contrast or color punch, but we'll see. So I might as well grab all 3. So what I do is I grab the Bing image, Leonardo image, and the Adobe Firefly image. and then I just drag it down to my Photoshop 2024 app, where it opens all three of them in. So yes, here we are in Photoshop 2024. And so this one seems to be biggest. So I go to Command Option I on a Mac, goes to my image size. I can see that just from the get-go, it's already 2688 pixels by 2688 at 72 pixels per inch resolution. Pretty big. The Bing, I go to image size, is 1024 by 1024. And the Adobe Firefly is 2048 by 2048. So Bing is the one that needs to kind of upscale their dimensions. Bit lacking in that sense. So my friend Amy Beth is here. Good to see you here, Amy. Amy Beth, I should say, full name. Okay, so here we are with those three images. And so what I typically do is I'll bring them into Photoshop like I showed you. And then I have a whole bunch of actions that I've created throughout the years. And then I've updated them somewhat recent, where I have Topaz Photo AI right here at the top, duplicate. So what I'll tend to do is I will do a duplicate, and then I will think of a name. I don't know, Woman in Nature or something. So Woman in Nature. And then I have some text abbreviations that I just type in, and it types in like digital art by me. So then I've got a duplicate of it. So that way I can always keep my original. I'll even close that. And what I might do even before I go into Topaz, I've learned to be professionally paranoid when working with Photoshop, is I will then save it. So I will click the save, go to my PSDs for 2024, and save it as a Photoshop file with the profile, embedded color profile of sRGB, knowing it's most likely going to be placed on social like Facebook. So Woman in Nature. And then I just hit save. So there it is. You can see the little Photoshop icon on the left. Then I'll hit F so I can just focus on the image. And if I were to zoom in, you'll see it's a little soft looking in areas. And that's what I want to fix. And then from Topaz, I'll fix the sharpness and the detail. And then I'll go to Camera Raw for tone and color correction. And then my friend Jennings is here. Good to see you here, Jennings. Cool. Okay, so I go to my actions. As you can see, the second one down is Topaz Photo AI. I click on that. So you would have to buy Topaz, and I have a link in the description on YouTube if you want to get that. There is an update available, but if I do that now, it will shut down Photoshop. So that's something I'll do after the live. But they do have pretty frequent updates. So they do always adding elements and always improving the Topaz Photo AI. So what happens is you get a preview. Already you can see on the left, it's kind of textured. On the right, it's smoother. And then there's a bunch of options here. So the first is the upscale. I don't need to upscale it by 3.38% or times. I just want to go to, say, 2048. I believe it was 1024 originally. So I just click here, type in 2048, which I know is a good size for Photoshop. And then I just click over in the height dimensions, and it takes on the same dimensions since it's a square image. Under the AI model, it says the resize models work best for the following images: standard for medium quality images from cameras, smartphones; high fidelity for high quality images from modern cameras and smartphones; graphics for art and computer generated images; and low resolution for low quality and highly compressed images. So what I will tend to do is I will check between graphics, because a lot of my work is AI graphics images. And then I also just check standard. And then with standard, I just noticed that the texture in the cheek comes out a bit more. And so it's just up to me. Do I want that, or do I want it to be smoother? So I might like that kind of bit of sharpness and texture. And yeah, Amy Beth says Topaz is my go-to. Yeah, it's great. And then Michael says, always interesting, Andrew. Thank you, Michael. So yeah, so standard is what I'm going to use. And then my thing is I like a bit of the noise and the sharpness. So when it comes to denoise, I'll bring that down. And then deblur is what I will use to see how much it sharpens. So if I move it up, you'll notice that it gets really textured on the cheek and in the neck in those areas. And then if I bring it all the way down, you'll see it's kind of more bland or a bit blurry even. So I'll just go up to like 25 to 30. And then for fixing compression, I don't think there is much compression, but I might bring it down just a bit. And then I have the option of deciding if I want to remove noise or not. But like I said, I usually like the noise, gives a little texture. But I do tend to sharpen. So I will choose sharpen. And it always defaults to sharpen subject. I kind of find that a little annoying. One thing that's good though is when I do this subject only, you'll see that it creates a mask and shows you how well it focused on the subject. So that's great. But I don't want that. I want everything. So I'll turn that little tab off. And then it's set to standard. And then for strength, 25 to 28. Denoise is already low, so that's good. Now, it does have a faces detection. It's not detecting it for some reason on this, maybe because it's more of a kind of cartoon type of image. But sometimes when it does detect a face, it makes it too smooth. And so I'll tend to turn that off anyways. If you had text in your image generated, it will preserve the text. So that's quite nice. And then you can, I believe it says you can adjust lighting and color, but I don't think it's as thorough as Camera Raw and Photoshop. So that's what I go to. Okay, so when I get to that point, you can also click to see before and then let go to see after. I just say save to Adobe Photoshop and then jumps. You can see it's obviously larger. So I just go here and I do Command minus to zoom out. And then here is the top layer is the topaz on the right. So if I turn that off, maybe I'll zoom into my image and drag it over a bit. So here's the image originally, and then here's with topaz. So it brings out the detail, like the lines get sharper. Let me move this up. So before this whole area, if you can see, maybe I'll zoom. I'm pretty zoomed in already though. You can see it's kind of blurry. And then when I go and turn on topaz, it's much sharper. So the details get much more better contrast, which gives you the impression of sharpening. Okay, so let me bring that down. So yeah, so that's the first step is the sharpening, the contrast. And then what I do is I might do a quick save to make sure I don't lose that. And then what kind of brings my image to life is I will go to filter, camera raw filter. And then I'm in the basics panel. So there's different, color or monochrome. You could choose from that to that. But under color, you can either set a white balance, but I don't really see a color cast on this. So I can just choose if I want to make the image cooler or warmer. So in this case, I might make it a little bit warmer. So if I go here, you can see it's more blue, more cool. If I go here, it's starting to get a bit warmer. And I don't go too far, just, like I'm at, say, 7 or 8. And then I will bump the vibrance slider to the right to give that a punch to the areas that are a bit muted in saturation. And then I will do just a little bit of saturation for the overall saturation to kind of give it a nice touch. And then down here is like the before and after, so that you can see it's already improved a lot. So that's before, very cool, kind of bland colors to a degree. Now it's warmer, more full of life. And then the next thing I do is I go down to light. So I just tweak the exposure. So move that just a little bit to the right, maybe 20. 20 or 25. Move the contrast to like 22. For highlights, I'll bring that negative, so minus 10 or 15, kind of bring a little bit more definition in some of the areas of the shade. And then whites, I'll bump that to the right, give it a little punch for highlights. And even though I sharpened it already, I might go down to detail, and then I will move sharpen. Like if you go here, you can see it. If you go subtly, you don't see it as much. So if I go to like say 45, the trick is on a Mac holding the Option key, or on a PC holding the Alt key. I hold an Option on a Mac since I'm on a Mac. And as I move the masking slider, everything that is white is being sharpened. But as I move the masking tab to the right, whatever is black is being protected. So there's like smoother surfaces being protected, and things that are more detailed are being sharpened. So at around 74, 75, it's focusing in on the real detail and keeping the smooth areas protected. I like that preview. It's kind of always makes me feel like it's doing its job. So I'll use that, then I'll let go. And then I'll just hit, in this case, well, if I wanted a bit more contrast, I would go down to curves, where I could click on the point curve and then just tweak some of the midtones and the highlights and the darks. But I'm kind of happy with the image as is, so I just do very minor. And then I just hit the OK to commit the changes, brings me back into Photoshop. And then you can see that's before and that's after. So totally different. I mean, it's before, it just does not have the sharpness, doesn't have the contrast, doesn't have the warmth, doesn't have the vibrance. And then I just make sure I save that. So that's pretty good. So I like that as is. Any questions? Don't be shy, my friends. Let me know. So this is the before, and that's the after, with the mixture of Topaz, Photo AI, and using Camera Raw and Photoshop. And if you've been working with Photoshop for a while, you know that there's so many options you can go to, like image adjustments. You have your levels, curves. You have for color, vibrance, hue, saturation, color balance. But I always tend to, the last couple of years especially, been favoring going to filter, Camera Raw filter, because everything is contained in those nice panels, and you just go from one to the next. And now one thing to learn is when you're in Photoshop and you go to filter and you want to go back and make some changes, if you go to Camera Raw filter here, that's where you go back fresh, and then you can make changes. If you choose under filter, the top one that says Camera Raw filter, it will apply the exact settings that you had before onto your image or a new image. So always be aware that if you go to filter, you want to choose the Camera Raw filter down here. So you're not just adding these same exact settings from the previous application. Okay. Any questions? Quiet crowd here. Okay, so I saved that one. So if I go to window, I can scroll through, or I just do a control tab. I can scroll through my images. So here I am in the Leonardo image. And so for this one, I might do the same thing. Like instead of starting with the original name, which is a lot of the prompt, I will just go here and say duplicate, and then delete, and then just woman in nature, or nature woman, woman in nature. And then I just put a little click. And then I just, my little abbreviations, digital art, Andrew Kavanagh, and hit OK. And then I always just close the original. So in this case, this one is already 2688 pixels. It's already pretty large. So what I tend to do with the larger images, I'll just kind of zoom in and inspect, and they looks pretty good. but I might just use some of my other techniques outside of Topaz, which is also good because I wanted to show how you would do this if you didn't choose to buy Topaz. So what I do is over here in the layers panel, I'll just do a Command J to create a layer 1. I always like to see the before and after. And then what I will do is I will go to Filter, Camera Raw, and go to Color. And if I, like I said before, if I go to left, it makes it much cooler. In this case, I want to make it warmer, so I'll go a little bit to the right, like maybe an 8 or a 9. Yeah, 9. And then for vibrance, make that like 13. Yep. Saturation, do an overall saturation like 9. Bottom right, show the before, after. Already it's more vibrant. Colors making it pop nicely. I go to light, do some little contrast. So exposure, open that up to maybe 20. Contrast, do that around 18. Highlights, pull them back a little bit. Not so much, maybe more like a minus 18. Whites, I do that to the right, around 8 or 11. 8 is good. That's before, that's after. And then, so under effects, you also have like texture clarity, but I tend to, sometimes I'll tweak the texture though, because on something like this that has a lot of detail, it might be nice to use that as well as for sharpening. So that's extreme. So I'll just do 23. Yep. And then go down to detail. I do sharpen, maybe like 40. And then once again, on a Mac, holding the Option key for the masking slider, or on a PC, holding the Alt key, I just click on the tab, move to the right. It gives me a nice preview. Whatever is white is being sharpened. Whatever is black is being protected. So bring it up to like 70. Let go. It's a nice sharpened quality. And then I just hit OK. So here's my before. Nice overall image, but lacking impact. And then I do that, and I have much nicer color, contrast, tone. So once again, I'm going to my Photoshop 2024 folder and saving it. And then here is the Firefly image. So the Firefly image is 2048 already. So I may just take that to camera raw. Any questions or any ideas? No. So filter. Before I do that, I always make a new layer. So Command J, layer 1. Now, if I wanted to save the new layer with a name, on a Mac, I would do Command Option J. On a PC, Command Alt J. And then I could title it whatever I want, woman. So I go to Filter, Camera Raw. It comes here again. And then for color, I can choose if I want to make it cooler or warmer. It's already warm a bit, so I'll just maybe +6. Vibrance, maybe 9, 10. Overall saturation, 12. I think that's too much now. So this is before. It's after. The skin is starting to get a little too neon. So I'm going to bring the vibrance down, bring the saturation down. Yeah, it's got a little bit more, but it's not overdoing it. Okay. And then under light, I can do the exposure contrast. Okay, so Marcia Lay. So Marcia asked, Andrew, do you use Firefly inside Photoshop to add or remove an element in the image? I've had bad results doing that so far. So I do. And so in this case, after I do this tweaking, I'll go back and get rid of, say, some of these extra birds. It is hit or miss, but I've done pretty well with it. You know, the main thing is you should do a selection that give some space around the object you're selecting, but make it clear that it's around that object. Sometimes if you use like a square marquee, it's not as good as if you use like the lasso tool. So I'll get to that after just doing a little bit more tweaking here. So under light, I open up the exposure a bit, maybe the contrast, bring back the highlights just a little. So you want to be careful on the highlights. Now, if you overdo anything, you just double click the tab, takes you back to 0, and then you can subtly move it. Object selection works pretty well. Not focusing on object selection yet. Okay, so then under effects, I'm just working on the overall texture, going on 13, and then detail, sharpening maybe like 35, 30. And then once again, the masking, holding Option. I do that. And all the detail gets sharpened. So here's before. It's nice, but lacking a little bit of vibrance, contrast. Here it's got a nice kind of glow to it. And I hit OK. Okay, so here's my before. Here's my after. And then I'm going to, do a save. It's set to Photoshop, going into the PSD, and it's defaulting to the color profile sRGB. Okay, so to answer Marcia's question about do you use Firefly inside Photoshop. So yeah, I will use some of the generative fill ideas just to show you. So here we are. Zoom in a little bit. So here's my image. Say there's some elements I don't like. So as I said, instead of using the marquee and doing like a square, I don't use that for a selection. I will choose like the lasso tool, and then I will just do a loose selection, but give some space around it, just kind of mimic the shape of it a bit. And then here is my generative fill bar that is always there, the contextual taskbar, they call it. And it says generative fill. So I click generative fill. Now, if I wanted to place something else there, I could type in what I wanted to generate. In this case, I just wanted it to take away. So I just hit the word generate on the right. The properties panel pops up, and it's going to give me 3 variations. And let me move the image over. So I open up properties. So this is the first one. If I turn that off in the layers panel, you see that's the bird that I got rid of, and it mimicked the kind of watercolor lighter background. It also gave me another variation where it's similar, but slightly different styles. I think I like the second one. So what I'll do is when I'm working around, you could just let it populate a whole bunch of these new generative fill layers. But what I do is if I'm satisfied with it, I will select the bottom layer and then shift click the top layer and do a Command E, and then it'll merge it down. Sometimes it'll take over that name generative fill. I can always just double click and type in woman. Okay. So it says beautiful work. It's tremendous. I'll have to run. Well, please watch the recording on YouTube afterwards, as well as any of my other recordings. Thank you. Okay, so here I'm back. So same thing. Maybe I don't like this kind of abstract red thing. Now, just to show you, that's one area, but I could also go in holding the Shift key, select another area, and maybe even this area where there are kind of abstract areas that don't make sense. I hit generative fill, hit generate. It now has 3 different source points that are selected that it's going to do a generative fill to. Okay, looks like it did a pretty good job. So what I tend to do is I have to, holding space bar brings up the hand, I move it to the right, click back on my properties panel. So first is a generative fill layer over here in the layers panel. turn that on, turn that off for the preview. So those 3 areas have been cleaned up, and it adds texture to it, which I love. Then I do another click here for another variation. Here's the first one, here's the second one, and here's the third one. And the third one looks cleanest. So once again, selecting the top one, shift clicking the next one, I do a Command E, and it's merged it down. Okay, I'm just going to do a Command S to save. And then I wanted to show you while I'm in Photoshop before I jump back into maybe creating another image real quick, is if I do Command N and it brings up the new document, you have all these custom sizes. So say I say web. Oh, maybe saved. I'm surprised I don't have saved. Whatever. So say I do 2048 by 2048. Resolution can be 72 for now. I'll just say fantasy or something. So it's, as you can see, it's set to black RGB color, these dimensions. So it's just going to fill it with black, right? So here I have something here now. Now, if I do just a simple Command A, it selects everything. And then, of course, let me do that again. When I have the regular contextual taskbar on a blank image, it just says import image. And if I go to the right, you can hide the bar, reset the bar, pin the bar. That's all the options they give me, right? But the minute I do Command A to select the whole thing, it says, do you want to do generative fill? Now, in this case, when I click on generative fill, I'm going to show you what happens with using basically Firefly's engine inside Photoshop. So I'm going to go to my notes and find, okay. And this is one that I'm going to probably do also in some of the other apps, but I want to see how well it does here. So a beautiful young woman with traditional kimono with cherry blossoms in the tea ceremony. And I hit generate. So we'll see how well it does. So once again, you get 3 variations. That's pretty nice. Nice portrait. Now, remember, you have 2 options. You can either go to the properties panel and you'll see the 3 variations there, or right in the contextual taskbar, you'll see it says 1 of 3. So I can just go click here. And a little bit of weird distortion. So I would say that the first one is pretty successful. So that's what you can do right there in Photoshop using generative fill. Pretty nice right there. And I believe it's on the version 1 of Firefly. So if you go to Firefly itself, then you'd be able to have the version 2, which is a bit better engine. So here we are. So I'm going to do something different before I generate the new image. I'm going to change the aspect ratio to widescreen. And then in the prompt, I'm going to paste the beautiful young woman, traditional kimono with cherry blossoms in the tea ceremony. And I'm going to bump up over here on the right, the visual intensity. So I'm going to bump that over, maybe even all the way. And then I'm going to hit generate. Okay, so this one defaulted to photo. They're pretty nice though. So I might just download these. And might as well submit to Firefly. It's pretty quick, 7 seconds at the most. So then I can hit the next one, submit to Firefly. Firefly. Maybe I'd do a quick download. And download. And then the last one, that's a nice one too. So submit to Firefly. And then I'm also do a quick download. Okay, so that was doing that. Now I'm just curious while I'm here, as you can see over in the content type, I can also choose art. So I'm going to choose art instead of photo, keep all the same prompts, keep the visual intensity up, and just hit generate. So little fluctuating gray is the so-called preview. So these are nice, kind of like a nice illustration. I might submit that to Firefly. And download. Okay, so I'm curious. So I'm now back in Bing. And then I just go to creations. So I just hit the X on the top right to get out of there. Go here, and then I just type in or paste the young woman with traditional kimono, cherry blossom. Hit create. Good to see you here, my friend. These are nice. Yeah, see some nice detail, kind of illustration, but a realism. Simple downloads. And then I'm curious, so I'll go to Leonardo. And then, so Leonardo, I have the albedo base. Maybe I'll try absolute reality now. Select the prompt, delete that one, paste in the new one. Make sure the dimensions are the way I want them to be, 1536 by 1536. And it's set to dynamic. That should be good. And then I just hit generate. No problem. Just be aware, Arwen, that the recording will be on my YouTube, so you can watch it again and again if you want. And Steve says, this has been really helpful to see your workflow and the comparative output. Yeah, I thought that would be interesting to show. And then, Zasha says, Bing is great. Yeah, Bing is pretty solid with the Firefly. Completely forgot the T. Well, to be fair, though, here's an example of how, even though Leonardo does a great job for things, it can also make some very strange mistakes. So it's like, why did it do that? So sometimes it does that just because I've been told that I've changed the dimensions, which I don't think is a valid idea. Like, I don't think that should be something that should have changed the output for this. So, it's hit or miss. You got to keep going, and then Michael says, how do you decide on albedo base? So many odd possibilities. Yeah, so it's really, that's why just to show you here once again in Leonardo, that's why I do the subscription. So I get 8,500 tokens, coins, whatnot per month. That way I can try different models. So yeah, I haven't been able to find a really good descriptive of the different models. So I kind of jump around. I tend to like albedo base. But to be honest, I can't tell you what the true difference is between some of the other models. It's just, they're too similar and I need to find a better guide on it. So I changed it to albedo base as opposed to, say, absolute reality. And then I'm going to hit generate again and see if that's any better. My friend says, I love AI. Yeah. So I know there's some haters of AI, but I have to admit it's a lot of fun. It's like having your own genie where you just type in what you want and it creates this stuff. And you can give a creative spin on it, like I did, where you can fix the tonal correction, color correction, the sharpening. You can also cut out the backgrounds, put a different background. You can use it for photo compositing. It's up to you. No limits. So this one's better. There might be some slight distortion, but um, pretty sharp image. So I can download that one. And then if I go here, hide Photoshop for now, I can go to my Trickster, which I love app. It shows me all the things that have been downloaded to the desktop recently. So I can click the top one and then go down to this one, and I can drag them into the today folder. So then these are the latest ones. I think that's Bing. Date added. And then that's Leonardo. So I might open up these two, bring them into Photoshop. And it looks pretty solid already, but I might just do some tweaks. So I make a new empty layer. Once again, the image size is already 2688. Oh, so I wanted to show you one thing too. So let me do a little color and then I'll do that. So I go to filter, camera raw, and then do I want it to be a little bit more blue, a little bit more warm? So just slightly warm. So like a +3, move the vibrance to around 11 or 12, and a little bit of saturation overall, like +9. So here's before, after, a bit of a punch, come to life. Then with lights, just a little bit of tweaking. It's pretty light already, so +10. Contrast 16. Highlights bring down just about -8. Open the whites up to about +8. Just kind of gives a oomph to it, a push. No, Trickster. Let's see, Rudy asked about Trickster. I think it's only like $15. I'm not sure how much it would be in Belgium, but I think it's only like $15 to $30, but it's totally worth it. I mean, I download so many things that for me, I can just go to Trickster. I can see what the most latest is and then drag them into a folder. Whereas otherwise, I'm always hunting for my images on my desktop. Okay, so I've done that. And then, so for effects, I might move the texture slider to like 16 to bring out some texture and a little bit of detail. So yeah, Michael says, I really enjoy using Deep Dream. I believe that's Midjourney because I can upload my own photos and then apply a style transfer from another image. Yeah, that's a great idea. So I know that some of these other ones do not have that option, but I believe they will be getting those. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Okay, so then here I'm back here. So I'm just do sharpen 28 and then masking, bring that up to like a 54. Hit OK. So here's before. Looks nice, but it's just missing something. Here it's got much more kind of vivid color, sharpened detail. Steve does say that Leonardo has it too. So I guess you have the ability to upload your own photo and then apply a style transfer. Yeah. Okay, so Firefly needs to get that. Bing for sure does not get that. It's kind of limited. But yeah, so here's a simple tweak. Looks pretty nice. I'm just going to keep it there. And then let's see. And then we have this one. So with this one, that's 1024. So this one, which I believe was created in Bing, I will open in Topaz. Yeah. So the feature in Leonardo, Karen says, is the image to image in Leonardo. But Steve says, love Deep Dream as well. And Fostoria also does that. Yep. They're all either have it or will probably working on getting it. So here I will do a, well, first what I tend to do is do a duplicate of the image itself. So once again, Japanese kimono and T. And then I might just do a quick save to my PSD folder. Choose Photoshop as the format. Color profile sRGB. Make that a little bit larger so you can see it. And then I do a Command J, layer 1, and go to my actions, and I go to Topaz, where I will do a upscale and bring out details. Okay, so there it is. It shows you before and after. Still initializing, doing all that on autopilot. Detecting subject, detecting face, low noise and blur. Tends to overdo the faces, so I will see how it says recovering face. So I turn that off, see much better. Before it kind of blurs the whole thing, after it brings back the detail. So I'll go to upscale, and does not need to be 3461, so I just make it 2048. Click on the height, and it's for both width and height. I decided, do I want standard or graphics? In this case, I think I like standard more. I think graphics is a little too much. Yeah. And then denoise, bring that down. Blur is fine. I don't need compression fix so much. And then I'll give a sharpen. And I hate the fact that it always defaults to subject. So I turn that off and turn off subject only. Hit standard. Strength about 25. And I hit save to Adobe Photoshop. And as you can see, it's larger. So I didn't really need to make that layer 1. I just kind of out of habit always do that when I do retouching or compositing. So I can even go to layer 1 just to hit the delete key. It's gone. And then so the new layer is the Topaz layer. So before, after. So let me zoom in here. Turn it off. So if I zoom in, and we're looking at the hair area, right? So we're looking at the top hair. This is the original. And then after, you can see the nice detail comes out. So that's why I love Topaz. Brings this nice detail. Also look at the eyes. This is before. It's kind of slightly blurry, mushy, soft. And afterwards, it has a distinct sharpness and gives it a 3D quality. Much better. Sometimes you got to do the on and off to just see the differences, but then once you see it, you'll see some really nice details. So it's already saved. Hit replace. And then I'll go to filter. Remember, camera raw, when you go to filter at the top, would just apply the last settings. I never do that because it's always a different image, different lighting, different color. So I go to camera raw filter. Here's my image. I go to color. Do I want it a little bit cooler or warmer? In this case, maybe I'll make it a little bit cooler. So like a -6. Give it a vibrance and a little bit of, I don't want to do too much saturation because her face becomes neon. So go back to 0, just like 3 or 4. Then light, open up the exposure, a little bit of contrast, bring the highlights back down a little bit, and bump up the whites for contrast. So that's before, that's after, a bit cooler, a bit more contrast. Image punches a bit better. And then texture, bring some texture under effects and go down to detail for sharpening, like 35 to 40, maybe 30, this one. And then holding Option on a Mac, Alt on a PC under masking, you can see the preview once again. So black is being protected, smoother surfaces like skin, and detailed areas are the white areas that get sharpened. I always like this. It reminds me of like my etching days in college. So then I move it up to like 60 to 70. This is about 70, maybe 65, and then hit OK. That's before, that's after. I think it looks better with cooler and a little bit more lighter areas. So yeah. And let's see, any questions? No questions? Any questions? But yeah, I just wanted to show my, Adobe Firefly, Bing Image Creator, which is now maybe Copilot Designer, and Leonardo.ai, how one prompt can create very different images, and then how I take it into Photoshop using Topaz for bringing out upscaling first, and then bringing out detail sharpening, and then using Photoshop Camera Raw filter to bring out the contrast, the color, and tone. Thank you so much, Steve. Great session. And so I wanted to go over a couple things before we end. But thanks everyone for being here. So real quick, if you like the format that I use at StreamYard, so you can join or subscribe to StreamYard at bit.ly/StreamYard live. It's a wonderful way to multi-stream to various Facebook groups, Facebook pages, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, of course. And Marcia says, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And then also let me let you know that about Topaz. So Topaz Photo AI is what I use to bring out those wonderful details and upscale my images. The link will be in the description on YouTube, bit.ly/Topaz-plugins. That is a wonderful way to eliminate sphere noise in your image, upscale any image up to 600%, and recover from missed focus, lens softness, and motion blur. It's now on Photo AI 2, so they're always updating and revising. And Rudy says, thank you, Andrew. Yep. Great demo. Appreciate it. Good to see you here, my friend. And then also let you know, let's see. So also sign up for free for the Video Creators Virtual Summit 2024. Free Premiere Pro and After Effects training, 5 days, 20 instructors. There's also a VIP pass option where you can be able to get the VIP pass to watch at your own pace. And, it's a busy life. So if you miss a day, you can watch it, up to, months to a half a year, I believe. And so that is the Video Creators Virtual Summit. Once again, the link will be in the description on my YouTube. And then in terms of other things coming up, sign up for the Virtual Creative Photography Conference. I will be presenting 2 sessions. That's a bit of a long one, meredithimages.com, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, the link will be in my YouTube. And then here is the thing. It's only, that's the old one. It's now $49. That was before, but all the other information is the same. I'm a speaker at the Creative Photography Conference, February 24th and 25th, coming up soon. Join me and 7 other creative speakers for 2 full days of seminars, speaker notes, virtual goodie bag, door prizes, and access to the recordings till May 1st. So that's the Creative Photography Conference. And so thanks everyone for joining me. Do consider subscribing on my Drew Cav. I changed the name from Digital Art Drew to Drew Cav, made it shorter. And also now I can focus on various things without being just in a box for just digital art. So subscribe for more digital art or Photoshop and AI art focused live streams and tutorials. That's youtube.com/Andrew at Drew Cav. You could also probably just do a search, but youtube.com/at Drew Cav. And that's Drew Cav on YouTube. You can also find me on Facebook. Please follow, subscribe at my Andrew.Kavanagh timeline page, facebook.com. I'm also on behance.net at Drew Cav and Instagram, Digital Artist Drew. If you joined us from one of the groups, thank you so much. If not, do consider joining the Photoshop and Lightroom group. That's facebook.com/groups, Photoshop Lightroom group. And even more appropriate for this session, come join the AI Art and Digital Art group, facebook.com/groups, AI Art, Digital Art. Thank you so much for joining me today. Appreciate it. And do consider, once again, subscribing to Drew Cav on YouTube, which is youtube.com/at Drew Cav. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. Please go back and watch the recording. Let other people know. Share it with other people. And if you are interested in any of the things that I mentioned, such as Topaz and the conferences, the links will be in the description. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate you coming to watch, and in general, your support in the Facebook groups. Keep on posting your great and creative work there. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Thank you.